Yes.
All right. Good evening. This is the Chicago Computer Society Linux SIG group for October 2022. One announcement I do have regards the November meeting, which is I think about 4 days after Thanksgiving on a Tuesday evening. I can make it, but I don't know whether we should try that or reschedule the meeting. So it's kind of up to you guys. Hearing nothing, then we'll give it a shot and we'll go for I think it's November 26th. Let me double check that. No, I take that back. 29th. November the 29th. Otherwise, we would have to schedule it before the 22nd. And assuming all the other meetings go forward, it would have to be in November the 8th or 10th. Those are open dates. Well, I take that back. November 8th will not be open. Oh, I take that back. That's election day. Tips and tricks normally is on would be normally November the 8th. However, Sanford is a election judge, so he's moved it to the 9th. So I could run a Linux SIG on the 8th or the 10th. Instead of the 29th. But if everybody's okay with November 29th, that's fine. The other issue is December. December's meeting date normally falls 2 days after Christmas. So that should be around December 27th. And I'll be frank, the chances of that one occurring is probably a 0 unless we reschedule it. Now for that one, I have an open date of the 15th of December, if people are okay with that.
That's
Any
it's okay
feedback?
by me.
Okay, Peter, and how about you, Dennis and Bob?
Let me check one more time on December. I just checked November to see whether I'd have a meeting conflict. December, which day?
15.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, because the 27th ain't gonna work. At least not for
No,
me.
no, that's bad.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at best, I would be returning from Ohio and trying to do a meeting the same night. Forget it. Ain't
Yeah,
happening. How about you, Dennis?
Just I'm open. I mean, to anything. Just if I can make it, I can make it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know of any conflict right now. But so
Okay, we'll shoot for that as a possibility. Now, I will say right now that for the Linux SIG, there are some conflicts going on. I may not be able to do it on the 15th. The reason is the South Suburban chapter I may do on the 15th. If so, an alternate date, and it's the only alternate date I've got for December, would be December 8th. So if we have a November 29th, we're talking just over a week later, we would have one in December. And I don't think that works well. So the only other alternative for December is to cancel the meeting for December and wait for January.
Well, Jim, which meeting did we move to the 15th?
Well, right now it's up in the air between South Suburban chapter or the Lennox SIG.
Okay,
And right now, if things go through, the 15th of December will be the south side. I've got something in the air right now trying to get something set up. That would mean that I would have to either push it to December the 8th, which is about 9 days after the November meeting. Otherwise, we'd have to cancel Lennox SIG for December, which is not unheard of. We did that last year.
I think maybe take the month off.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll give up on Lennox for December. We'll have the November 29th meeting as normal. At least I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, for Northwest chapter, we've been canceling the December meeting for the past number of years, just because it's a busy month. So, you know.
I understand that because I go out of town for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But being that the 27th is 2 days after Christmas, odds are it'll be either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm traveling 255 miles and trying to do a meeting. Only if I use toothpicks to hold my eyes open, and then I won't discount the brain being totally asleep. So okay, we'll scratch the December meeting. I know Ed was going to not do the Northwest, and I'll probably have South Suburban on Northwest chapter meeting night be the South Suburban.
Yeah, what we used to do in December was just simply have the Christmas party.
Well, that was for the South Side, yes, with Al, but that's at a restaurant. And last year Al got burned because he needed at least 30 people to sign up. The maximum he got was 20, so he canceled it. And then he quit being the group leader this year. So I don't think
They had to
there'll be.
get together in June.
Yeah, well, like I said, he quit.
Yeah.
And even the one in June, I don't know what happened there. At any rate,
I wasn't there, so I don't know.
yeah, I know. Offhand now, I was going to show you tonight LMDE on the 32. I got a 32 and a 36-bit version. The 32-bit is what I had set up, and for some reason I cannot get into Zoom. It won't launch because there's a problem with dependencies not being met, and I'll look into that later. The other reason I wanted to bring that up was the LMDE version only has a Cinnamon desktop, unlike a regular Linux Mint that has both Cinnamon, Mate, and XFCE desktops. I installed on the LMDE5 the Mate desktop, which I was going to show you. And a lot of distros for Linux come with up to 3 different desktops. You can switch amongst them. Now, some of them may need additional setup before you can actually run them. Because they'll give you the basis, but you have to try them out to make sure that all dependencies have been met. But what you do is on the login screen where you put in your password, there's usually a little icon. That little icon, if you click on it, gives you alternate desktop environments. The norm is only one on LMDE, Mint, and that would be Cinnamon. But when I install the Mate, now I have that as an option. It takes over, but the Cinnamon is still there, okay? And all I have to do is the next time I log in is change to the Cinnamon desktop, and I can keep switching back and forth. If it was like many other distros where there was a third choice like the XFCE, and I just came across this afternoon how to install that on the LMDE. Generally speaking, I could switch between all 3 of those, and there's lots of other desktops that you might be able to install with varying degrees of difficulty. So you have to take things with a grain of salt. You can't do these kind of things with Windows. You can't do it with Mac OS either. Changing desktops and its characteristics is very Linux based. And part of it is done because some people like a real high-end heavy desktop that has lots of built-in capabilities. 2 examples are the normal GNOME 3/4 and KDE. Now, when you get into Cinnamon, that's a medium weight desktop. So it has less resources, less built-in capabilities, but gives you a faster environment, especially on older limited hardware. The Mate is a lighter weight version, and XFCE is even lighter still. There's also like LXDE and LQDE desktops that are very light versions also. Some people like eye candy. So when you get into the high-end GNOME or KDE desktops, there's more eye candy available. Same is true on Mac OS and Windows. On Windows, I turn it off. On Mac, I used to set it off, but my current versions are very out of date. So that's a couple tips that I've got there. Does anybody else have any tips that they want to share?
Only that if you go over to regular Ubuntu, there's also a version which is now recognized as an official flavor that has Unity, which was what they were experimenting with for a while when they thought they might be making a phone and they might be making other devices.
Yeah, but the other reason why Bob's bringing that up is because the normal versions of Ubuntu use Wayland and it plays havoc on his hardware. That may be true on a lot of other people's hardware. So somebody unofficially brought back the Unity, and then Conical decided to adopt that and make it a additional optional standard version.
The actual problem I had with Wayland was screen sharing. That's not hardware.
Okay.
That's something else. Now they're using something called Pipeware in Ubuntu, the 20. the 2210 edition has begun to use Pipewire instead of Pulse, and whatever they've been using, Pulse Wayland, whatever else it is. But anyway, Pipewire with Wayland has been working for some people quite well in meetings with screen shares.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of issues that led me back to Unity for the time being. Who knows what happens later?
Well, I haven't even gotten around to even thinking about 2210 on Ubuntu. I do run Ubuntu from time to time, but I have never had some of the issues that you had. But I also have not tried screen sharing with the Ubuntu versions. I have not done Zoom with the Ubuntu versions. In fact, most of the versions of Linux I do run, I've never run on Zoom. So I have like Gecko, which is open source SUSE, with improvements like Mint does with Ubuntu or Debian. And then you have Arch Linuxes. I've got quite a few variety of them. They're not for the beginner person. Arch is definitely a very different. It can get real complicated real quick. Medium weight like Fedora and OpenSUSE, Gecko, Almay, I think it is, Linux, which is replacing CentOS, which are all medium weight distributions. Those run pretty well. They use an RPM package instead of DEB based packages to install software. It's a different way of doing it, but especially for beginners, the Debian based OSs such as Ubuntu, Mint, MX Linux, and a plethora of others, they're all based on Debian. It's much easier, much simpler, less headaches, usually. I have to emphasize usually, because there's always gotchas with anything. After all, this is not static. Our computers, the software, the hardware, it's all very dynamic and fluid in changes virtually every day. So because of that, things do break. Unexpected stuff, like I came up with the Debian Linux version of Mint that just couldn't handle the situation. I was expecting apparently Zoom to provide all the dependencies. It didn't do that, and now I got to figure out how do I get around the problem for the future, I guess is the best way to state it. So I brought up Linux Mint version 21 Vanessa, which is what I'm running right now. And I hope I can share my screen. Let's see what I can do here. See if I can make some damage. Oh boy. My sinuses are killing me. There. Gee, that worked out pretty darn good. Okay, tonight's primary discussion, presentation, however you wish to look at it, has to do with LibraOffice. Now, LibraOffice runs on just about any platform. It's a cross-platform Office suite. One thing that LibraOffice doesn't have that, say, Microsoft Office has is Outlook. an email client. Depending on the version of Microsoft Office you get, you may have a lot of other packages like a CRM package, that's content relative management or something like that. Bottom line is there are lots of extra tools that most people don't use. The email is a problem, except if you run LibreOffice on Windows or Mac, there is no email client that's associated with LibreOffice. In Linux, there isn't either. However, if you're really partial to using Outlook on Windows, you should try Endeavor on Linux. And if it runs on your version of Linux, mind you, like I said, there's 3 or 4 or 5 different variations on Linux. It may work on some and it may not work on all of them. So Endeavor is a fairly old, well-established Outlook looking, acting type of application, and it would give you that extra piece. Now, I'm also going to see if I can launch my LibreOffice General. And come on, yay! It actually worked. Sometimes what I did was for anybody else doing Zoom, I opened up the desktop. That allows me to launch a lot of applications, and they usually will come up. One of the key things with this, actually I got 2, but I haven't explored the second one. If you come up to Tools, select the last one called Options. You get this little screen here, and I'm not sure if I can take and enlarge that. My instinct right now is I cannot enlarge it. But basically you come down to this category here, load and save, which is collapsed. So you click on it, highlight it, get the diamond that's pointing to the right, click on that. It brings up the subcategories. General is where you're headed for. Now, Bob, Massachusetts, a long time ago, said they adopted the open document format for government documents. Do they still have that in effect?
Well, I don't think they ever fully converted anything existing, but moving forward, they sort of, as a matter of principle, said we would prefer people to use open formats.
Okay.
And so you might be able to find documents now that are in open formats. It's not really a big deal for me because I can use anything in my LibreOffice.
Yeah, so can I. But normally these would default to, now right now, it's talking about the text document or writer in LibreOffice. And generally speaking, the default is this one at the top, open text document or .odt. And I changed mine for lots of reasons. If you're never sharing documents with other people, you can select any of the formats that are in here you want. It won't matter. But when it comes to sharing documents with other people, you might want to use the Word 97 through 2003 if you're believing the person you're sharing the document with is only using Office version 2003 or earlier. Otherwise, select Word 90. Word 2007-365 for the current format for having a document that is pretty compliant with Office and works quite well. It's one of the best out there. Next, you would click on the down arrow next to document type, select spreadsheet, and again, it'll have an ODF spreadsheet .ods format, but I changed mine to Excel 2007-365, and it's therefore standard if I share the document. I then drop document type, go to presentation, and I do the same thing. It's defaulting to PowerPoint, and you have to understand, after the Writer and Calc, most of the other applications have less and less compatibility. So the Impress is a little weaker than PowerPoint is. PowerPoint has more features that most people don't use anyhow, so it doesn't really matter that much. Now, the second thing that I'm going to bring up for your edification, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, okay, here we go. Macros I don't play with. Even if I had Office, I don't play with them. Macros, if I send out a document with macros in it and was using Microsoft Word, even 365, it may be blocked. Why? Because the macros allow nefarious malware to be loaded into your system and hijack all kinds of information. But Extension Manager, they have a plethora of extensions available. You find out by clicking this little link down here, I hope you can see it, to get a listing of all the various extensions that can be added. These are extensions that I liken to browser extensions. Browsers I use a lot of extensions on, either for protection purposes, so that I'm not getting in a lot of malware that the extensions block. In fact, if they know it's a bad website I'm trying to go to, they'll stop me. I do have the ability to override that as long as I know and I am comfortable that it's a good website that I've been using for a long time. I can go ahead. But there's other ones too, like LastPass, my password manager. Okay, to me, a browser that I cannot install LastPass on is totally useless. I got to have LastPass at minimum running on any browser so that I can access my existing accounts without a lot of hassle. Otherwise, there's no purpose for me to use other browsers. And I do use multiple browsers. Pardon?
The wind blew a can down. I said the wind blew a can down.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Well, it was empty.
Anyway, when the browsers can do this to add features, as one example, I run for the last several months Grammarly on my browsers that help any documents I create in the browser, which includes emails. Grammarly will help correct a lot of grammar and spelling errors. Oh, we got somebody else. Jim Freeberg. Oops. Oh, I got the wrong mouse. I'm trying to use the wrong mouse here. Okay. Hello, Jim. Hello, Jim.
He's
Glad
muted.
I'm glad you made it. Anyway, I'm just getting into the presentation of LibraOffice. I was mentioning earlier, and you can watch the video, some settings you might want to change in Tools option to get standardization with Microsoft Office file formats. Also, I was mentioning here, though I haven't used it yet myself, Extension Manager to get extensions just like we use in the browsers. I use multiple browsers, and part of the reason is different looks, different feels of the how a browser displays things, but also because sometimes you go to a familiar site in a browser and all of a sudden something doesn't look right. The first thing I want to do is, what is the browser based on? Is it based on Chrome, Chromium, Edge? Those are all the same thing. Okay, Firefox is different. So I might open up Firefox, go to the same site, and see if the web page that I'm thinking looks strange in a Chromium-based browser looks the same or different. If it looks different and it looks like what I'm used to, it could be a couple possibilities. They're making changes to the web pages, or B, the website that I went to in the Chromium base through the DNS lookup sent me to a clone site that is different, and therefore it's bogus. They're trying to get your information, such as your account login, etc. So those are a couple possibilities. When you're developing websites, it's good to always check your pages in multiple based browsers to make sure that everything looks acceptable. Otherwise, you got to do some adjusting to make things look best in all the browsers, because you don't have control over what browser individuals do use, let alone the media, because now you're talking smartphones and tablets are being used more and more. Your web page on a laptop or a desktop looks fine, but when you look at it on a tablet or a smartphone, it may look like garbage, and therefore you lose that person from going to your site. So that's a little tip that most people don't know about, that try and develop web pages. So I'm going to get out of this for the moment. So I was noticing that there are 5 alternatives to Microsoft Office. They do a comparison. I will be providing a document with all these, so you don't have to worry about it. Basically speaking, all of them show up. LibraOffice is considered the top contender as an alternative. However, with Microsoft 365, you can do collaborative development of documents, spreadsheets, whatever the case may be, because you're going through the cloud. And you and other people can all be online at one time working on the same document to the end result. LibreOffice doesn't have that capability. So if I create a document, and let's say I want Bert to look at it, I have to send him a copy. He makes his suggested changes, sends that version back to me. I keep making my changes, sending it back to him, and it goes back and forth until we think we got the final product. That's one of the downsides. I don't think the majority of CCS members are doing collaborative work, so I doubt it's going to be an issue. LibreOffice is open source, and that adds to its potential security being open source, but it also explains part of the reason why it is a cross-platform package. As it notes in here on the last paragraph, however, LibreOffice does not come with an Outlook-like email program. You might be one of the minor drawbacks, and that's where I mentioned early on, you might try Endeavor, because that's a Linux package that emulates Outlook. The next package is Google Docs. Now, I haven't used Google Docs in a very, very long time. So a lot of changes have taken place. Google Docs is now in the cloud, just like Microsoft 365. So you have a situation there. If you're cloud adverse, and there are a lot of people that don't want to deal with the cloud, that already is a strike. Second, I don't know how compatible Google Docs and Microsoft Office are. I do know in the past Google Docs would read in a Microsoft Office file and do its best to convert it to a Google Docs. But a lot of times you have to do a lot of changing to make that document look usable. And that's assuming you're not using features in Microsoft Office that Google Docs cannot support. It also is a closed software package, just like Microsoft Office is. Google owns Google Docs, just like Microsoft owns Office 365 and the older desktop versions. Now, in addition, you do have some flexibility, but one of the best features of Google Docs is its templates with the power, but they exist heavily in Microsoft Office. They exist in LibreOffice, but not to the same extent. With the power of the pre-built templates, you can start professional grade documents in no time at all. The collaboration option gives you more control when sharing and deploying documents with a Google account-based authentication, etc. If you need more from Google Docs, it's recommended you get the paid version, which is cheaper than Microsoft 365, called Google Workspace. And this gives you more options, more features available. You can tie in your Gmail account to the Google Docs, giving you Gmail as the email client. Oh boy, my nose is giving me headaches. Only Office. I had never heard of this one in particular, and I believe it is also a closed source, meaning that they own it, they don't share the code. It's a free, oh, I take that back. This is the open source one. I got this mixed up with one other one. This is an open source productivity suite also. Spreadsheet, presentation, text editor. It supports advanced features such as real-time collaboration and proper tracking for shared documents with the ribbon feature, which is what's part of Office 2007 through 365. Powerful Office suite looks better with its 365 type ribbon, but it has an older interface that you can switch to. It supports the same Microsoft Office file formats. Only Office Space Workspace comes with an email client of its own, which is rare. It has a CRM product, a project management tool, and an integrated calendar, which makes it more like a Microsoft Office, is what it's trying to compete with. But not having heard of it before doesn't help. So I am bringing that up right now. Software Maker. Now this one I'm pretty sure is a closed one. It's free, but it looks like Microsoft Office as well. It has Text Maker, which is like Word, Planner Maker like Excel, presentations and comparison utilities, secondary user feature options, modern ribbon option makes it look more desirable. Besides the Software Maker, Free Office provides specific user interfaces and features for touch-based devices. However, you may have a little trouble with open document format files whose support is limited. So if you're interested in using open documents, this one might give you a problem. The last one is WPS Office. This is a pretty, this is a closed one also. It also is made in China, or by Chinese, let's put it that way. I don't know if they're in mainland China or like Taiwan or something like that. But it gives you some capabilities that are comparable. It depends upon what you want. They have then below here a comparison of products, and they give you some tips. LibraOffice, it's free, it's open source, cross-platform, multi-language support, complete support of ODF file format, best compatible support with Microsoft Office, very active development, no email and project management in the suite. The database program depends upon Java, and the database is not compatible with Access anyway, so it wouldn't make that much difference. I don't happen to use it. Google Docs, it's free, it's closed source, cross-platform because it's through your browser, like Office 365. Well-documented support, access documents via the cloud anywhere, complete mobile device support, requires internet connection, little slow due to the web-based tool, no native desktop executable available. So you're running an app that basically, I think, works in part through the browser. Sorry, my nose is really bugging me. Only Office, free for the basic product. They have a paid version with more features. It is open source. User interface almost similar to Microsoft Office, better support and compatibility with Office files, cloud integration, and plug-in support cross-platform. It may face problems with some basic features. Cloud integrations are not compatible with EU due to the GDPR requirements. The web app version is slow. Free Office. It's free for the basic product in that one. It is closed source. Free, lightweight compared to LibraOffice. Touchscreen support, good Microsoft Office compatibility cross-platform. Free version only has document, spreadsheet, and presentation. Additional products need purchase. Open document format support is limited, not open source. WPS, free. Closed source, good Microsoft Office compatibility, cross-platform product, tabbed interface, multi-language support, not open source product, of course, developed by a Chinese company, may contain ads. So these are some of the various alternatives to using Microsoft Office. Not everybody wants to keep paying a lot of money to Microsoft for a suite that they only use a limited amount to begin with, and usually it's only the word processor and a spreadsheet that's used the most.
Tim, one of the things I thought you should add here is that people are in Apple world, that their iPhones or iPads or
Right.
Macs all have something called Pages, Numbers, and
Yes.
Keynote, which are the Apple versions of all these. Matter of fact, today they just updated them to be more multi-user sharing documents.
Very good. This article didn't cover the Apple products. I don't know what their reasoning is. It would have been nice to have that information already in this program.
What were the names of those, Bert, again? The Apple?
In Apple, if you have an iPhone or an iPad, there's an app for free that's called Pages, which is word processing, Numbers, which is a spreadsheet, and Keynote, which is like a PowerPoint. So you can download those from the Apple Store if you want it.
Yeah, if you got an Apple phone, shouldn't be any difficulty. It may already be on your phone or tablet. Now, this I thought was something that I should bring to your attention. There are a lot of people that don't want to go to Linux because they're so centric on using Microsoft Office, particularly the Outlook. But this here is a way of customizing LibreOffice to look and feel more like Microsoft Office to make it more comfortable transition if you're not tied to specific features like collaboration. If you got to collaborate, LibreOffice is not your choice. If you're collaborating with a group of people online, you got to use one of the alternative packages. But you can go through this and look at how they go about making LibraOffice look more and more like you're actually using Microsoft Office, which should be flattering to Microsoft, but it's also serving themselves by the fact that Linux is one of the platforms they do run on, and unless you're running a package called Wine on your Linux platform that allows some, not all, Microsoft software to run on a Linux platform. Office is supposed to be one, but if you're talking Office 365, you can use Linux because that goes through the browser anyhow. So generally speaking, if you're trying to do collaboration, you're using Office 365, therefore it shouldn't be much of a hassle. These are some, this one here is an article about the new features in 7.4, which is now 7.4.2. And it gives you a little bit of history. Some of the things they changed. The major in 7.4 from 7.3 is in the calc program, and some of the things that it can now support in 4 that were there in 3 but hidden as experimental stuff. Unless you knew about the experimental stuff and how to activate it, you would never have known what these were until you got up to 7.4. The next one is Writer. They made a bunch of changes to it as well. I'm not going to go through all the stuff here. Impress, which is the LibraOffice version of PowerPoint, has had some updates, not as much. Then there's common updates across all the modules that are supported in LibraOffice, such as Draw and Math, as 2 others. But there's a gotcha that I came across that came as a bit of a surprise, but at the same time, all competing products with some other competing product have to watch out for copyright infringement. So I guess from that standpoint, it makes some sense. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open up a document that you're going to get to show you one little gotcha that doesn't work the way we expect. Oh, nuts. I didn't make it. That's the problem. It's on the other one. The one I can't bring up. Let me pause for a second here. I'm going to have to send you the the document because since I couldn't get the Debian-based version of Linux Mint to run with Zoom, that's where I had a document, but I will bring up a different document here to show you the feature that was a surprise for me. And let me get up here. Okay. Come on. Goodbye. Okay. Now, this is a document I handed out several meetings back. Let's just say that now this one is in a Word doc format of DOC X extension. But let's say that I want to send you all a PDF document. Okay, LibraOffice directly doesn't support a PDF document. It does it as a different way, two different ways. So if I come up here, and I don't know how well you can see this, but there's a diskette here is the third icon to the right of the left side of the screen. And it's for saving the existing document. But right next to it is a down arrow. If I click the down arrow, I get a menu. The second item is called export. So when I do an export, it wants to know the document I'm going to export. And if I come down here towards the bottom right, it says exporting to writer to an XML document, which would be a kind of web-based document that I could put up on a web page. But if I click that down arrow, I can select PDF. I can also do EPUB, which if you've got certain e-readers, that's the format they use. I can also do the XML that came up. I can also send it out as a JPEG image. I can also do a XML layout for writer, a PNG. So if I want to take that document and make a PDF, I have to select that and then select save. And it'll say confirm. So I did. And I want to export this document in .docx format to PDF. So I'm going to close this file here, and that's me. Sorry about that. Here's the original Word layout document, and this is the same one as a PDF. Now, if I click, and I've closed off LibraOffice, it's closed right now. I'm going to double click this. It brings up a PDF file inside of what's called the Draw application. It allows a limited amount of modification, primarily for signing a PDF document somebody sent you, and then you would send the document back to them designated as signed. So it's limited, and it's not intuitive on these two things. If I want to make a PDF document from a Word type document, I've got to export it first. Then if I click on the PDF document, it brings it up in the LibreOffice Draw program, which has the ability to do limited changes to the PDF and then send it off to whoever sent you the PDF in the first place, or to a third-party person. So I thought I'd bring these little idiosyncrasies I have discovered myself to your attention. Now, I'm not going to go through the rest of this one here, but next I bring up this here is a how to use LibreOffice. This is talking about version 5. However, changes are not usually that radical. So this still has information in it. If you want to, you can go through this, find out how to download Office, various things that you can do, open up the Office when you got it, Here's the normal screen for opening the general office where you select what you want to do. Am I going to do a template? Am I going to open up a recent document? Do I want to create a new writer document, calc, which is a spreadsheet, impress presentation, going to draw, math formulas, or the database. It gives you some graphical presentations on things you can do with it, customization of toolbars to suit your needs. And then there's standard ones. These are some of the things you find in a standard toolbar, and you can customize that. When you do formatting toolbar, these are some of the normal things you would find in that, and so on and so forth. So it gives you some extra hand-holding to work with LibraOffice. This here is LibreOffice's documentation resources. This gives you a helpline, quick reference card, primarily for the ODT format, macro books if you want to get into doing macros on Office, LibreOffice. If you need guides, here's one to the 7.4 of Impress, one for Calc, one for the base, but at 7.3 because they haven't had an update to 4 yet. Here's the draw guide for 7.3. Here's the older Impress 7.3 guide, the Writer 7.3 guide, etc. So you can get these documents to download and go through. They go back quite a ways. So it's a great little resource for being able to learn more ins and outs of LibreOffice. Now, essential guides. This one at first sounds a little bit off balance. This is essentials for LibreOffice tutorials for teachers to use in the classroom. This covers a lot of stuff about LibreOffice, but all this is just the index to all the stuff that they cover. You have to go down all the way to the bottom if I can get there. And this thing's going to fight me. I can see that right now. You rat. All right. Anyway, I'm going to keep scrolling down to get there. Okay. Now at the bottom here, you have an appendix to the LibreOffice math guide. Well, unless you're a teacher and you're teaching kids mathematics, I don't think you're going to probably be interested. However, there is a guide of shortcuts to LibreOffice. Almost any major package, and that includes Microsoft Office, Google Docs, they all have shortcuts to be able to do things. A lot of people, when they got their hands on the keyboard, who are typists, not hunt and peckers, they want to be able to keep their hands on the keyboard without using a mouse and without using too many special keys. They want to learn a lot of the shortcuts they are going to use the most. Doesn't mean they're going to learn all the shortcuts that are available in any given program, just the ones they know they're going to use the most. But if you want to get to the content, this is the one you got to click on. And I'm going to, not sure, oh, it opened up a separate one. Basically, here, if I click on these are all live ones that are actual product. And I got to get back to the first tab. So if I come down to lesson 1 and click on it, now you get the actual content. So you got to go to what I'm giving you, to the very last line, which is a link to get to this documentation. This is the whole course from the University of Pittsburgh to teach teachers how to use LibraOffice in the classroom and teach the kids how to use it. So I thought this might be of interest to some of you. Now, the next one that I got here is another how-to tutorials. Each one of the bolden lines is a link to what it's talking about. Now, the first one here is edit scanned PDF documents into LibreOffice Draw, which I showed you a little bit there as the oddity. Tutorial explains how to edit and scan PDF file into LibreOffice Draw. Editing PDF documents in LibreOffice Draw is a simple, straightforward process. It comes with all the standard features needed to edit, modify, and manipulate PDF. I got to go through that one more myself. I knew of some of the features. I did not know all the features. LibreOffice Writer, supported file formats, create open saved documents in LibreOffice, feature overview, intro to LibreOffice and its history, learn Office Writer, free online tutorials, download, install LibreOffice in your computer, how to set up a default email client in LibreOffice. This tutorial shows you how to configure your preferred email client program in LibreOffice so you can send a document via email. LibreOffice will automatically use the email client as a default. I was unaware of this until I read through this. So that's something I got to look at. How to change the default font in LibreOffice Draw. And there's more here. So there's lots of tools here for you to use to improve the use of LibreOffice if you're not trying to use Microsoft Office or Google Docs. Here is, I've got 2 videos. One is on Writer, the other one is on Calc. These are 2 tutorials that are videos on YouTube, and they are kind of long. The Writer one is an hour 26 minutes long, and Calc is about the same length. So you're talking about 3 hours to just go through these 2 videos alone to learn some of the ins and outs that they're trying to show you as beginners in LibreOffice version 7. The other 2 documents I've got here is change the default LibreOffice look and feel tutorial. This gives you various different things that you can change to give LibreOffice a custom touch that you like and prefer. It gives you screenshots about what it's trying to get across to you. How to try the ribbon in LibreOffice. I didn't know it had it until I read this article. So this is something I may look at just to see what it's like. because I've never used the ribbon beyond Microsoft Office 2007 desktop version. What makes it look like Office? That's debatable, but they give you some options here that are not that obvious to the majority of people. The last one I got here is an export or save as PDF a specific range in a spreadsheet using a macro. So they're going to teach you how to make a macro that gives a specific range in cell columns and rows and export it as a PDF so that you can then probably either send it directly, or you can use it as an attachment on an email, or perhaps incorporate it inside of a document that you're putting together. It depends upon what you're attempting to do. This is apparently part of the macro, and you may have to change settings in it in order to cover each spreadsheet. You want a specific range which may change over the course of a year. For example, CCS's financials, that changes every month. So it can expand as it goes along. Well, you would have to come into this stuff here and do the same thing. You'd have to adjust it per month. Running the macro. Complete macro documentation is here at the bottom. You have to read through the whole article to figure out where and how this is of benefit. That's most of what I have for the time being. I'm wondering if any of you have questions at this point that maybe I can take a shot at.
The versions that you can save in LibraOffice, like a spreadsheet or a Word document, would you be able to send those to somebody who uses Microsoft, and will they be able to use LibraOffice on their Windows computer to still open and edit those?
Well, in part of your answer, Bert, I send you LibreOffice documents all the time. Have you had a problem opening them up in your office?
No, but some stuff I get from Sanford is incompatible.
Yeah, but I don't know what Sanford's using. Is he using LibreOffice?
I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's missing some features, like you can't tab over some
Okay.
other things. So I have to adapt the documents.
Sanford is an Apple person. When he's not doing our meetings, it could very well be those are Apple formats.
Well, that's a
I don't think so. I think it's.
In other words, Apple output.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that's what he uses.
Okay, well, maybe LibreOffice, maybe he uses an older version.
Or it could also be that he's using Google Docs. It's free.
He is not that kind of a person.
Well, like
Unless
I say,
it's-
I don't know exactly what he's using myself, so I can't honestly say what he might be using, but I haven't had a problem opening anybody's office documents. To the best of my knowledge, they haven't had a problem with my documents that I create.
Well, sometimes if there's a graphic, like the CCS logo,
Yes.
some of those come through without the logo not open. And
Okay.
it's usually stuff that Beata sends out on Comcast and forwarding it.
Well,
So
sometimes
there are issues with graphics.
Well, some
that you
Yes,
be careful
there
of.
are. There are.
well, most of mine is a case where some of what you're talking about is from email, and that's on a Windows machine. But I occasionally, when I'm doing a copy of a former message, it does not copy the graphic image. And if I'm too fast on my hands, and it's going to go out without the image. I have to delete where the old image was and paste in a new copy of the image. But that's through normal email. It has nothing to do with LibreOffice.
Sometimes if you save things first, you get past that problem. In other words, don't just have it in edit mode when you mail it out. Save it as a document and then forward it as an attachment.
Well, that could be too, but generally speaking, I don't use much in the way of graphics inside of documents for quite some time. I used to use it fairly heavily when I would make up the agendas for CCS meetings, but I haven't done that much in a long time. That probably was made in LibreOffice at the time, but pardon?
A lot of email clients, when graphics come in, put a placeholder in the place of the graphics, unless you designate the sender as a safe sender.
That's true too.
I know Office does that right away,
Yes,
all the time.
that's because
Outlook does that.
the bad guys, they may do that with a PDF too. You got to understand, there are a lot of graphic formats, especially like JPEG, that they are able to slip in malware code, and therefore, if you take the image in, you could get infected. Same on PDFs and a lot of other things. So you got to understand the animal. The internet is a very dangerous place, and it's getting worse and worse, not better and better.
One way to try and help is make the document and then send it to yourself and see if it comes through the way you expect it before you send it out to other people.
That helps too, and that's not a joke. Sometimes something will be sent as an attachment, and other times I may develop something inside of say, a LibreOffice writer, and then I copy it and paste it into an email, and then I gotta check that out. How does it look? And a lot of times I try and avoid graphics because it can be a problem. But the main thing is, when you're a person in office, there's a tendency to use a lot of whistles and bells that your colleagues within that business may also be using and therefore have no problem with. But when you try and send that to people outside that organization, now you may run into problems because not everybody stays up to date on the current version of Office, let alone might be using some other piece of software like a LibreOffice or Google Docs or something of that nature. And they may not even be able to open what you sent them. This used to be a very common problem. So you had to contact the person who created the document and let them know that they need to eliminate a lot of the bells and whistles that are stopping you from opening and looking at their document.
Of course, the real problem now is security, where
Yes.
people, if it's in the email itself, it's fine. But if it's an attachment, they're afraid to open it because they don't know what they're opening.
That's correct too, because people have gotten burned with that. And so one thing that some people will do when they get an email with an attachment is try and contact directly not through a reply on that email to the person who supposedly sent it to see if that person really did send it, and have they open it up and is everything a-okay. Especially if they didn't create it, they are forwarding it to you from some other source. So you these days you got to worry about clicking on links and getting infected. You got to worry about attachments, even graphical images or pictures, PDF documents. Lots of this stuff can be infected by smart criminals and infect you in a number of different ways. And one of them is to either put on like a keylogger or a Trojan that gives them a back door to hack into your system as though you gave them permission. And they now use your system not only to harvest any of your personal information, but also to potentially use your system as a zombie computer they are controlling to do nefarious things like denial of service attacks by multiple computers called the dynamic denial of service, which hit O'Hare terminal just within the last few weeks, and four other airports around the country. I think New York was one, LA might have been another one, and I don't remember if it was Hartsfield in Atlanta and one other. But at any rate, there were about 5 airports that got DDoS attacks by zombie computers somebody was controlling to do, if nothing else, just the command ping unlimited. And it would send out the pings to all of the sites they are targeting, and end up blocking you from accessing that same site to do normal business. Maybe you're checking an airline flight. When does it take off? Or was it canceled? Was it delayed? Whatever the case may be, suddenly you cannot access the airport's website when a DDoS attack occurs. A lot of businesses used to suffer this problem, but most of them have updated their websites and servers to be able to circumvent and prevent DDoS attacks from shutting down their website, basically. It will probably slow it down, but it doesn't shut it down. So these are all real security issues. If you weren't at the South Suburban Computer Club meeting last month, this month, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. On the 18th, I think Sanford has that video up, or it will be coming soon. He was out of town for a while. And that one, I had Bob G. From Avast give a presentation with a Q&A that went 45 minutes to an hour in length. And there's quite a bit of interesting information, including, I think Sanford needs to watch it too, because I picked up on one thing there, and he had a problem occur with somebody trying to open up a bank loan in his name. And fortunately,
Yeah, I had something like that happen with somebody actually opening a checking account at Wells Fargo.
okay.
Just got finished with about a ream of paperwork about that.
Well, in the case of Sanford, his wife's a realtor, sells homes,
Right.
and that was one of the things that came up in that meeting. So there's lots of little tidbits if you open your mind to what he's saying that are things that you can do or watch for to reduce bad side effects from getting either hacked, personal information being used to pretend to be you, to take out various kinds of loans, mortgages, etc., open up accounts in your name, do other things in your name.
Yeah, the thing about the Wells Fargo incident is it's well known they have insiders who have access to places like Equifax. And if somebody gets a hold of your information through that kind of a backdoor, you have no control over it.
That's right. There's lots of different ways. Let's put it this way: most of these people, if not themselves directly, are working for true criminal-minded people. These are con artists and out-and-out thieves, and they will try and part any people from their money. That's what ransomware is all about. Now more and more are resisting paying the ransomware. Now the threat is they're going to make the information they stole public and do potential harm to that entity whose data it originally was. And that there isn't much of a defense that you can mount to prevent potential damage, the loss of customers or other embarrassing information, possibly even information that nefarious practices in that entity that law enforcement would like to know about and therefore maybe prosecute.
Well, actually, law enforcement doesn't want to know about it. They consider it a civil matter. It's the FTC that wants to know about
Well,
it.
it depends upon the information that was stolen in the first place that's being made public. If it shows criminal activity, you can bet DOJ is going to get involved one way or another along with
Yeah,
the FBI.
DOJ works with FTC, not with actual police departments.
Well, it wouldn't be necessarily the individual police departments. It would be more like IRS and FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and things like that.
Yeah, that's not police. Those are that's civil division, not criminal. Well, it is criminal, of course, but it's usually handled by the civil avenue first, and that leads to these criminals. So, in other words, what they're doing is investigating the financial transactions,
Right.
which is what all these agencies are involved in, and this leads them, just the way they got Al Capone.
Yeah.
Well, you have to start with a police report for all these agencies and situations.
The procedure is start with the FTC report. Well, first of all, start if you know exactly which institution it was, start with them and have them stop the activity. Then get your fraud alerts on. Then go to the FTC. Then the police want you to do all that before you come to them. Then you go to the police and file a report with all of the contact names, all of the documentation, because they're only going to want to take one report. They're not going to append it. They're not going to amend it.
Well, and a lot of jurisdictions I'm hearing, the police department says we have nothing to do with it because they don't have the facilities to deal with it to begin with. Sometimes they will direct you to the state police, as an example, where they have more resources.
The police report is basically viewed as a formality. It is required if you have lost any money. It is required if you want to recover any money. It is required if you want to get the 7-year fraud alert. That's the main thing it's used for. That's what most police departments look on it as. But in any event, what all this points to is you don't want to send things with macros. You don't want to send attachments that look to a scanner as though there's something potentially not right with it, or something that could be misused, because that's likely to get blocked or filtered out. And this includes certain kinds of images, certain ways of putting an image in a document. And that might include some of the ways that either Office or LibreOffice would do this image insertion.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can actually you take a snippet of the data, so it's not editable. It's effectively send a picture of that.
Yeah.
That's not an editable document. Or document somebody could edit.
Yeah, or send it in read. Send it as read only.
well, when you take a picture of it, understand if some criminal-minded person gets a hold of the image, they can modify it. It looks just like your original. You don't see anything, but there's code added in to the metadata of the image, and it will infect that targeted computer, whether you will like it or not. So that's why I say images, graphic images of any kind, pictures, etc. Many of the formats, they know how to infect them along with PDFs. Not a joke. Security.
So when you get one of these, you have to put it through your scanner if you have antivirus capabilities for that.
Yeah, and it's just a case where even the AVs, not all of them are well tuned for some of the latest creations of these criminal-minded people. Their AV programs are always 1 or 2 steps behind the criminal activity. Why? Because AV companies, they have to see the actual code in the wild that's doing the infection. Then the first modification they make of the AV application is to put up a warning. It doesn't remove it. It just gives you a warning. I detected something bad. Don't use it. Don't do anything with it. Close down the application. The second step after that is for them to figure out how to safely remove the malware from your system. But this could take weeks to months for these 2 stages to occur. What do you do in the meantime? That's why you have these first day attacks that occur in all the software. And basically they found a flaw, and until some kind of a security patch comes out somewhere, or the AV programs catch up on this particular malware, you're SOL.
Yeah,
So,
in Linux for scanning attachments and things of that nature, just to see what might be in it, ClamAV is the one that is used by businesses. It is used by your webmail clients, and it is something you can put on your computer and use.
right.
It tells you what's there, but it does not tell you what to do about it. It does not tell you what it means.
Okay.
With most of your data in the cloud now, whether it's local or both, you really don't have any control over anything.
Yeah, but almost all of that is scanned with ClamAV,
Yeah,
or
Linux
something
and,
even more sophisticated like Endpoint.
ClamAV is primarily a Linux application, but I think they also make a variation for Windows, if I remember right.
They used to. They don't really concentrate on Windows anymore.
Okay.
I mean, for businesses, usually endpoint security is used, and or something of that nature. And that has various other things it can do by way of telling business IT administrators what it is that's in there and how dangerous it is.
Well, at the moment, it's a sad situation that's just getting worse, not better. And the next major thing we have to worry about is AI and machine learning, because now you get into quantum computers, they can break any encryption you've got.
Mhm.
They can imitate anybody or anything, and this gets into things like deep fakes. You can have a video conference like we got right now, and everybody in this video conference, the image you see and hear could be a fake.
Yeah,
Every-
quantum computing actually doesn't exist yet, but
Not in a
the AI sure
practical.
does.
Yeah,
And it's getting very sophisticated, very advanced, and just the computers you can have. My little 2 packs of playing card sized NUC PC could probably do a pretty sophisticated fake.
that's
It's
right.
11th gen Intel, and it's got some good hardware in there. The only thing it doesn't have is the graphics capability for doing the transcoding.
Well,
But
when it
you know, I could put that in a box alongside of it.
and see, the thing that is being brought up here is you may see a video, especially on social media. Question: is the person you see in the video and what they are saying the real person, or is it a deep fake? You could be reacting to a total fake situation when the person that they are imitating did nothing about this, had no knowledge of what's going on until somebody else tells them, hey, did you see that you did this? It wasn't them. Deepfakes are getting to be a big problem.
Now, steering back to a little bit more of what tonight's topic was about,
Yeah.
I do want to mention Crossover Office for Linux, which, although it's not free, it costs to use it. It allows Office to be used on Linux with really good compatibility.
Now, which program was it?
Crossover.
Okay, yeah,
I
know.
posted in
That's
chat the link to Codeweavers where it is made.
Yeah, I've heard of crossover before.
It's better than Wine for Office.
Wine is normally the other option, and there are a few distros of Linux that come with Wine built in and configured.
Yeah.
But a lot of them you have to add Wine, and you have to figure out how to configure it to get the greatest compatibility to run Microsoft operating system compatible type software, which
Right.
includes Office.
I also one other little procedural point, Tim. You're going to give us a link for where to find Endeavor.
Endeavor, I don't have a link. I just remember the package from years back. I remember that there was a package. It took me a while to remember Endeavor, but Endeavor, I think, is you might find in the Synaptics package.
Let me check in Synaptics, but I did not find it online. So let's see whether Synaptic has it listed.
Boy, I'm gonna while you're doing that section, I'm gonna try a different package. Come on.
Because I know I've heard of Evolution. That's all over the place. But Endeavor, Endeavor.
I don't remember the spelling off the top of my head. It could be Evolution that I'm thinking of instead of Endeavor.
That's what I'm wondering, because Endeavor does not show up in Synaptic. No. However, Evolution has been around forever. And yes, Evolution is very Outlook-like, if you're talking about the older Outlook. It was designed to be very Microsoft.
Evolution. It must be the Evolution.
Yeah. If it was Evolution, that one, they have always said that it was developed in order to give some sense of being the look and the feel and the features of the desktop version of Outlook.
Yes, and I remember this going back more than 10 years ago. I don't remember exact time, but here's the software manager in Linux Mint 21
Oh, yeah.
Evolution, and it's a groupware suite with a mail client and organizer. And so if you're somebody that even like in a matter of speaking, CCS using Outlook, it's a case where this is made for Linux people,
Yeah.
not for Windows people. So that's another situation. But there are people that say, well, I can't go to Linux, though I have some interest because I'm so tied to the Microsoft Office stuff. Well, there may be ways around it. It depends on each individual's circumstance that determines whether they can achieve it in an acceptable manner or not.
Yeah, and in Linux, because of its Unix heritage, there are some email clients that stick with the Unix formats for email. And one of the ones that does this is ClauseMail. It will not work very well in Windows if you could get it in Windows, and I think there is a Windows version. But it uses the Unix formats, and if you happen to have some connection with somebody who uses Unix or Linux, you can exchange mailboxes and contacts lists and do a lot of import and export. Thunderbird also has a mode in which you can, I think it has an add-on, in which you can put everything into the Unix format. The only people who don't use Unix format and don't export to it is Microsoft. And maybe Apple.
That's a possibility too. But it's a case where the for Unix on micros, most people use a BSD version,
Yes.
which is Berkeley, Southern California micro Unix system. Solaris was one that was like it, but it's not classified a BSD. There's quite a few versions of it. I don't think most people that are playing around with or trying to learn to live with Linux would generally touch a BSD or Solaris. It's those people that work in an environment or did work in an environment where they were on Unix-based systems all the time that would be more interested in the BSDs and Solaris OSs.
Yeah, I'm talking about compatibility.
Yeah.
And being able to import export. Also, if you happen to have something that's in Thunderbird that you take over from Windows, maybe you have a whole installation of Thunderbird that you already did in Windows. If you want to take that over to Linux, you're good.
Yes, I know of one business that years ago I had a setup with Thunderbird. There were gotchas, just like anything, and it was on a Windows base. But if they hadn't sold the business years after I set that up, if they had ever switched over to a Linux base, they could have run Thunderbird and been able to import everything from the Windows environment into the Linux based Thunderbird and been up and running in a very short time.
Oh, I have a story about a gotcha.
Oh, we got all kinds of
when you're-
gotchas.
When you're working long distances with designer type, artistic designer type people for graphics. And this is make sure that you have all the fonts loaded on your machine that are the same as the machine that's developing the graphics. Because otherwise they'll send you the file and Windows will substitute the closest window
That's correct.
font for that.
And that's
And it will just blow it all up.
I didn't think of it. In LibreOffice, there's a way of importing the Microsoft fonts into LibreOffice so
Yeah.
that doesn't happen. And I forgot about it.
Yeah, it
They
kind of
also
worked
would add
for us.
funny fonts because they wanted to have a certain look in a document, and even Windows in its normal one wouldn't have it installed.
Yeah, like
You'd have to have them send the file over, the font file, to install it to see it.
well, you might run into a problem. It depends on compatibility in a Linux environment, but
Right.
I mean, like Comic Sans. Most real such graphics developers, I don't think would use Comic Sans as one of the examples of a font that they would use, even though it's available in Microsoft's world. It may also be in some fashion in other OSs like Mac app for Apple, and Linux might have something like Comic Sans.
Yeah, the two types of fonts that I've found, well, several types. There's the Microsoft formats, there's the LibreOffice formats or the open source formats, and there's TrueType.
But these guys would actually create their own fonts.
Well, then they are responsible for putting them into a format you can use.
That's right.
The thing is there that they'd send what they thought was right, and they didn't say it's an odd font, and they're sent it to the printer to print out the document.
This is a common thing that used to occur much more than it does nowadays. But there are always new people coming in, especially since the pandemic and a labor shortage. There's a lot of people that are now working jobs in an area they never did before. And one of those areas, they may be learning all the bells and whistles of, like, say, Microsoft Office. The problem is they don't know what you are using. And if you're not using the same version of Microsoft Office, their documents may contain things that you are unable to even open the document. Maybe you've got an older version of Office.
Yeah.
It's Office, yes, by Microsoft. But if it doesn't have the new bells and features, you're SOL. Same if you got LibreOffice. If somebody develops a document in Microsoft Office, depending on what they use in that document, you may not be able to do much with it in LibreOffice. This is a common problem.
Right.
Yeah, if you're talking about printing, there's this whole problem of PostScript, GhostScript, and then the fact that in Linux you're using either cups or Gutenprint, and those are devilishly difficult to configure. And then now you've got to add this curveball of a new font.
Yeah.
So that can.
Well, I mean, watch out for gotcha.
Now, see, there would have been interesting on that particular topic had Sanford showed up at the meeting, which he normally would not anyhow. At least with him there, he was a former printer.
Yeah.
So he could talk explicitly about that particular issue. But
you might even have a printer driver that can't handle that particular font or that particular way of doing fonts.
Well, not only that, but when you get the document, assuming you can open it, if you don't have the exact fonts and other capabilities in your application, you're going to get a distorted view of whatever that document is. Some things that are supposed to be showing in that document might not show up or be very distorted. Everything may be shifted over, just totally out of alignment. It looks like junk. You wonder, was this person on hallucinogenic drugs when they made the document? No, on their machine, it looks absolutely the way they understand you want it.
Well, this is why Sanford, in his former business, would encourage strongly that people send him things in PDF format.
That's right. And
If
that's
it's
what I was doing.
PDF, it will print correctly.
That's right. And so really, if you're exchanging back and forth with such developers, you've got to get on the same page and use PDFs to do the document exchange with. That way, you get a true representation of whatever the document is and what it's going to look like. You don't worry about, do I have the fonts that are needed? Do I have these other features that document's going to need to render itself correctly on my display? And vice versa.
That is okay until you have to edit it to go back for approval.
Well, pardon.
So the PDF will tell you what it's supposed to look like when you open up the original on your machine. And if it doesn't look like that, then you've got to do
Well, yeah, but there are
conversations to get it right.
There are editors for PDF documents. A lot of them do require you to pay for them. There are some free ones, but they may not have all the capabilities needed to edit what you need to have changed. I don't know. I just got a hold of one. I don't even think I've had it 30 days, and I haven't had time to experiment with it a great deal. Let's see if I can remember what it is.
And there's also OCR programs that break up PDFs to be editable in sections. Not always accurate.
For Windows, the program I got recently that looks promising is I Love PDF. And that program, I think is free to use. I think there's a premium version also of that program. Again, I only got it fairly recently.
Anyway, what other computer things, what other Linux things have we got going on?
Well, at the moment, I don't have anything else for tonight, and I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do for next month. But if nothing else, I'll have, while I'm having Thanksgiving with relatives, that I hope some time to work on something like that. But right now, I don't have anything there. I will send you a copy of the document, but I'm going to look up about, I remember there's an article out there, how to get Microsoft Office fonts into LibraOffice, and I'll add that to the document. But I've got that on the other Linux Mint, so I got to go in there to make a copy of it. I'll add in the new link, and then I'll make a PDF and send it out to you guys.
Just a little quick check among the group. Other than Tim and me, is anybody else actually running Linux on a machine, at least part-time?
I'm trying to get, I've got one that runs it. I'm trying to get time to get over there and play with it.
Yeah,
okay.
That's sometimes a real hassle finding enough time to do stuff. I know Dennis doesn't have one up yet. He's been having to take care of his brother that's got medical issues.
Oh.
And so I even sent him APCUG's repeat of beginners Linux from last month. And I'd say within the next week, I might get October's issue, and I'll send you a copy of that. There were some things that a guy in the September APCUG Linux workshop brought up that I hadn't seen before, and it has to do with the BIOS and explaining some of it. You can't show anybody that easily because unless you have the right equipment and setup, you can't take pictures of the BIOS as they come up, and all machines have different variations of BIOS even within the same manufacturer. You've got several different versions of BIOS. So
Or somebody could have a phone with a camera and video the screen as you're doing it.
I understand where you're coming from, but actually, you know what they use instead of the phone camera is they use a digital SLR type camera, whether it's mirrored or mirrorless, and they mount that instead to use that. And you got to have it on a tripod. You got to have a whole setup, lighting and everything else work just right. This is where the problem showing that initial video I made of installing Linux Mint was not of good enough quality. Too much reflection going on, fading out of the video. It's a nightmare to try and have the right equipment, especially if you haven't got deep pockets to go out and buy all kinds of equipment.
Well, current phones are much better than they used to be.
Yes.
They're better, as good as any digital camera.
Some of them, yes, not all. And it depends on what you got. I've got an iPhone and I got an Android, and the iPhone is probably better, but it's a far cry from, say, an iPhone 13 or 14 in video. So it makes a difference.
Well, you're not trying to do 4K presentations either.
I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. 1K is enough, or 1080p. That's the same thing. Even a good quality 720p, which is just HD instead of full HD quality, will work. My webcam here is a Logitech C270. That's 720p HD quality. I don't think this is a bad image offhand. I have some 1K full HD webcams, but why use them if this is working just fine? I've got a laptop. It's an antique from 2009. It has a built-in webcam camera, 1.3 megapixel, and trust me, it looks like crap. So it makes a big difference what you use. If I had a better camera, I could do a smartphone camera. I've got a holder and a tripod. I don't have a total setup needed to do it. I've also got a couple old digital SLR type cameras that I think can be turned into a webcam also. But people who are making video podcasts, they usually use either a smartphone camera or a digital SLR camera. And those are the top two ways of creating a video. The bad part is having the right lighting and setup so that you can take a picture of a display screen like we're all looking at and have it come out top quality so that other people can look at it and make out what the hell's going on. The original video I made back in July doesn't meet that criteria. Sorry, it's reality. But there's nothing I can do about it at the moment. I am looking at another avenue of getting most of it, not necessarily all of it. And if I can figure out how to do it and the time to do it, I might be able to recreate the installation procedure. But as it stands right this moment, I only have at best some ideas. I just don't have the wherewithal, and mostly I don't have the time to do it. I've been going crackers. I even forgot to send out the invite last evening, and it was like just after 4 o'clock this afternoon Central Time. Hey, did I send out that invitation? And I because I wasn't seeing the posting by Beata, so I went and looked in the drafts. There it is, sitting there waiting to be sent to Beata. So I sent that out. She wasn't home a little after 5 o'clock because I tried calling her by phone. So I sent a message to Bert. But eventually, a little bit after I sent Bert that message, Beata did come home, saw it, and sent out the invitation. I also sent out a copy of the invitation to people who were on my Linux list to see if, just in case. So several went out, but then I got blindsided by having the Linux Debian version not running the Zoom. So I got to try and find a time to figure out why and what do I have to do to make it work. I mean, I got a whole friggin' list of probably up to 24 library entries that are missing, and that's why it won't run.
By the way, during the meeting, I got an email from Comcast that they upgraded my service from 100 MIPS to 200 MIPS. And they had told me that they were working on the service for a while this month. And but apparently they just finished, and I looked at Beata's site, and it says the same thing. So maybe we'll get a little better service.
Comcast always has over time done upgrades because when I had Comcast, it was a much lower rate. Then it almost doubled the rate, and then it upgraded again and upgraded again. So I'm not surprised. Everybody's getting more and more bandwidth and needing more and more bandwidth. Right now, I have 500 megabyte service. I don't always get 500 because of all the other people doing either work from home type businesses themselves, and people streaming audio and video hogging up a lot of the internet bandwidth. So, but I think the lowest I ever got was at least 250 megabytes, and that was for a brief time. Usually I'm 300 to 400 some odd megabytes, and occasionally I get up to around 500 or a little above. In fact, I think this evening in the 5 o'clock hour, I did a speed test, and I was around 525 megabytes download, and I was about 56 megabytes upload, which is.
Of course, while Comcast on the phone says you got 200 and some MIPS, my computer only says it's less than 34, which is probably the best it's ever been.
I don't have anything else. Does anybody have any ideas for what we should try and address next month? Well, thank you for the help. And Dennis, I don't know. You're like me and Peter. You're going to have to figure out how to engineer time to try and. If you take that APCUG Linux workshop video I sent you the link on, and follow it. You start out by just creating a flash drive and running it live. But every time you run it, you're going to have to either have the machine connected by Ethernet, or you have to configure the Wi-Fi to connect to the internet, because it saves no settings. Running it live is like using a read-only memory. And so everything will run on it. It doesn't remember it because there's no place to write it to. It's all locked up as read-only. So if you set up the internet to work today, tomorrow you may have to set it up again, and then a day after that, set it up again, every time you run it off of the flash drive. But that's how you start learning to play with Linux. And it'll run on almost any machine that's got enough horsepower and memory. If you got at least 4 gigs of memory, I'd say any version of Core I or Core 2 dual or quad processor should run almost any version of Linux that isn't top end, like KDE Plasma or a high-end GNOME 3/4 version. Anything else with Cinnamon or other medium desktop or light desktop should run just fine on any of that hardware. I remember you had a Dell 3050. It'll run on that with absolutely no problem whatsoever. The only thing you have to do is make sure secure boot is turned off in the BIOS. And it'll boot up, and you can run it off of there and play with it. You learn by playing, not by trying to actually do work.
By
And
the way,
that's
about
the-
secure boot, if it's any mainstream Linux distro that you've burned onto a bootable drive, in most cases you do not need to have secure boot off.
It varies. It does
even
vary a little.
11.
It does vary a little bit on what will and what will not. But yes, you might have a version of Linux Mint, as an example, that might work on that machine's UEFI settings
Right.
without a problem, is what Bob's bringing up. But in some cases, it will not. And turning off the secure boot option in the BIOS usually takes care of the problem.
Yeah. Although in Windows 11 there are reasons you don't want to do that, and you may need a program that contains a shim. You won't need that for most of the Linux bootable flash drives, but when you're using utilities like gparted and so forth, Ventoy has a way of getting through that, and it's a once only key install. After that, Ventoy works perfectly well, at least unless you change something.
Well, Ventoy is a little above these guys right now, but it is an optional tool that allows you to install on a flash drive multiple versions of OS or utilities and run them off of the one drive as though they were the only program installed on the drive, because it's a multi-environment that Ventoy creates. There's an older tool called Yummy that does basically the same thing, but Ventoy, I think, is a better, more modern version.
My point is that it can communicate with TPM chips, which many bootable USB flash drives cannot do.
Well, I know Dennis's machine will not be in compliant. I don't know what Peter's got, whether it has TPM or not.
Well, no, if you don't have Windows 11, you're not worrying about that.
Yeah, but that's another reason why you need either a dedicated machine that you don't mess with the features needed to support 11. Right now, if you want to have Windows, you got to have version 10. Dennis, your wife's Windows 8 church machine. January is the last time you get any updates. After that, you're on your own because you're getting no more updates. Unless it's a major security flaw that they find, they might send you that like they've done with Windows 7. But outside of that, good luck. You're on your own. Nobody's going to help you from Microsoft. Tell you that right now.
Yeah. And by the way, Bert, I am listed as 300 Mbps by Comcast, and I just did a little test through the command line, and I've got 128 megabits per second, and the upload is 10.8.
So that's what it would have been before my upgrade today.
I have 300. It would be post upgrade for you.
Well, I mean, I only paid for the basic service from them. I don't upgrade it,
That's right.
and they upgraded it. Fine.
That's right. They
Yeah.
do that periodically, and that's a normal feature of Comcast and some other providers. AT&T doesn't do it much.
I
Phone I
out
got
here-
5G there, so
Out here, our competitor is Verizon. They are FiOS, and they have equal upload and download speeds. And they are fast, much faster than Comcast.
well, the difference is, there isn't much that I'm doing. For instance, today there was an update for Windows.
Yeah.
So it takes a few minutes and that's it.
Yep, unless it's a feature update, you really don't have much of a problem. You won't notice it.
Well, but I check updates every day
Yeah.
for 5 or 6 different things before when I turn the computer on.
Yeah. If you get something as big as a feature update, you might begin to notice.
Well,
Or
it's
if you,
not that I don't notice. That's my expectation that it would be there.
right.
Now, if I do this on an old machine, that's an old Atom machine, it might take most of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it would take more like most of the year because
No,
Intel stopped making.
it could take most of a day on that old machine, but they're all upgraded to 22H2.
Yeah, but Intel stopped making the Atom processor, which was below a Celeron processor, and Celeron did a terrible job running Windows 10 even, and you had to have at least the Pentium chip or better to get a ability to run 10 and one application at a time.
Well, when this machine was made, that particular machine was made, it was just fine because that was probably Windows XP time.
Yeah, that's right, and that's how
Bert?
it's changed. You're talking.
Can I bring up a point here? I had a data logging whole room running on Windows 95 for 5 years, no blue screens, no issues,
Right.
no reboots.
Yeah, I support.
It solved it did its job, and that's all it was expected to do. And as long as Bert is happy with what he's got, end of story.
Well,
And everything is temporary.
I have.
I've been doing this stuff for 40, 50 years now.
Yeah.
And everything has its lifespan. And some things can keep up and some can't. Turns out the fact that this Windows stuff can stay on Windows 10 and keep current is amazing.
If you were doing things with Linux by Pete and Bert, first, your resources would last longer. And second, you could keep more up to date. And third, you'd have that rock solid stability and you would never have to reboot unless you had a kernel update.
Well,
correct.
keep in mind, and way before, people never had to go to the internet. Everything was apps that were local. You didn't download, you got a disk.
But then again, in those days, it only cost about 3 cents to mail a letter.
The
No, as a
Windows
matter of fact, the
machine
equipment was
was
much more
changed
expensive.
from OS2.
Yeah.
The Windows machine was changed from OS2 to 95.
Yeah. You and
Because-
Sanford, us too.
Well, I
Again,
still
my first computer was $40,000.
I still have running XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, 10, 11, and I have, and at the rate things are going, I'll never get to it. I found in a system that was pure junk that it had an old 5.25-inch hard drive in it running Windows 98. And I'll bet you if I get the time to play with it, I'll get that thing up and running. But the last time I found it and I briefly checked it, I couldn't get it up and running. It had a problem, and I didn't have. I couldn't find my disk to try and make a fix from the bootable media that 98 came on.
I think I gotta call it a night, guys.
Yeah, I think we need to call it a night too.